The story kicks off with a Japanese man who wakes up in a bizarre situation. He's dressed in vibrant, colorful pajamas, and he finds himself in a vast, white room with no doors, no windows, and seemingly no ceiling. While examining the walls, he stumbles upon something strange, a protrusion shaped like, well, a male body part. Out of sheer curiosity, he pokes at it and presses its tip. What happens next is absolutely surreal. Hundreds of tiny, giggling baby angels emerge from the walls and floor, but they vanish almost as quickly as they appear. Yet, they leave behind something even stranger, their own versions of that same protrusion, now sticking out from everywhere. At this point, the man begins to freak out, sniffing the finger he used to press the button, then shouting for help. But no one comes. Left to his own devices, he starts pressing all the buttons, each triggering a bizarre and unexpected result. Objects begin falling into the room, first a tiny toothbrush, then a large vase. He notices that pressing the same button repeatedly gives him the same object, which is how he ends up with a mountain of chopsticks. The situation takes a painful turn when a small cart unexpectedly rolls out of the wall and slams into his legs. To make matters worse, another button summons a butt-shaped object, which, to his dismay, releases gas in his face. After hours of this madness, the man finds himself surrounded by an eclectic mix of random objects. Frustrated but resourceful, he tosses a ball at the wall, accidentally pressing another button, and voila, sushi falls from the ceiling. Hungry and relieved, he digs in, but soon realizes there's no soy sauce. Despite pleading with his invisible captors, there's no answer, so he keeps pressing the button. A heap of sushi piles up, but still no sauce. Defeated, he starts eating the sushi anyway, savoring each bite. But just as he finishes, the soy sauce finally appears. Furious, he tosses the bottle aside. As a final bizarre twist, another button gives him a pair of old-fashioned 3D glasses. The strangeness only grows from here, as the man continues to explore this surreal environment. Stay tuned for the rest of this bizarre journey. When he puts on the 3D glasses, he finally spots a baby angel pointing directly at the protrusion. Thinking he's cracked the code, the man presses the button with renewed hope. But instead of an answer, he's greeted by a countdown, followed by a giant but descending from above, which releases gas onto him. Disappointed and exhausted, the man continues pressing buttons. Hours later, he's made it through 5 volumes of a manga series he finds amusing. However, when he presses the button for the 6th volume, he unexpectedly receives the 7th. Annoyed, he keeps trying different buttons, but they only give him the 8th and 9th volumes, still no 6th. Just when he's about to give up, he stumbles upon a button that unveils something remarkable. A hidden section of the wall opens to reveal a door. Thrilled by this breakthrough, the man celebrates, but in his excitement, he forgets which button opened the exit. He frantically presses buttons at random, leading to a bizarre series of events. An African tribesman suddenly darts across the room, and a deluge of water pours onto his head. Finally, after much trial and error, he finds the right button again. But just as the door opens, it slams shut before he can reach it. This happens on his second attempt as well, and he realizes the door only stays open as long as the protrusion remains pressed down. Determined to outsmart the mechanism, he tries pressing the button in various ways, with his foot in a runner's stance, with a fly swatter from a distance, and even with the breeze from a fan. None of these strategies work. He tries using a small cart to hit the button and quickly dash for the door, but even that fails. Realizing he needs a way to keep the button pressed down, the man sets a large vase on top of it. But to his dismay, the button pops back up again. He figures he needs to weigh the vase down even more. His first idea is to fill the vase with water, but no matter how he tries, the water only splashes onto him. Next, he stuffs the vase with sushi, but the vase becomes so heavy that he can't lift it. Worse still, the neck of the vase is too narrow for him to reach in and remove the sushi, so he resorts to pulling out pieces one by one with chopsticks. After painstakingly removing enough sushi, he manages to lift the vase and carry it over to the buttons. But as he approaches, he realizes, yet again, that he's forgotten which button opens the door. He tries one, and suddenly, the African tribesman rushes out again, this time knocking into the vase and cracking it in half. This is the last straw. The man snaps, screaming in frustration. In a fit of desperation, he begins piling sushi onto the button in an attempt to hold it down. Predictably, this too fails, as the little protrusion pops up among the scattered rice, mocking his efforts. The man decides to try covering the button with tape, and then adds a steel plate for good measure, but nothing seems to hold. In desperate need of relief from the pain in his back caused by the door, he takes some painkillers and sneaks in a quick nap. Once he wakes up, he feels the urge to brush his teeth, so he presses a button for water. Unfortunately, he hits the wrong one, and instead of water, a rope drops from the ceiling. This unexpected twist lifts his spirits and sparks a new idea. He imagines swinging across the room using the rope to dash through the door before it slams shut. However, when he tries to open the door behind the false wall, he discovers it's locked. Just in time, he manages to retreat before the door closes, but it still manages to smack him on his way out, prompting an angry kick at the wall. This accidental move activates one of the buttons, revealing a floating key in the center of the room. Just like the door, the key vanishes as soon as the button pops back up, leaving him scrambling to keep both the key in sight and the door open. First, he must locate the button again, having gotten momentarily distracted. By recalling approximately where his foot landed during his earlier kick, he tentatively chooses a button, only to be greeted by a barking dog. The next button yields the same result, but on his third try, fortune smiles on him. He keeps his eyes fixed on the button while carefully walking backward, grabbing a piece of sushi to mark his target. Yet, when he presses it, the dog returns. This time, he finds the button quickly and activates it again, causing the rope to reappear. He takes a swing toward the various buttons but miscalculates his jump. As he tumbles to the floor, he spots a plunger he had received from a previous button, and inspiration strikes. He can use it to propel himself further. After one failed attempt, he manages to combine swinging on the rope with a push from the plunger, successfully pressing the key button. He grabs the key, hurries to the door button, and races towards the door just before it shuts. He quickly inserts the key and twists it, but a cruel twist awaits him. A second lock on the top requires a combination of 3 numbers to open. In a frenzy, he bolts back out, taking another hit from the door as it slams shut. Frustrated, he flings the plunger at the opposite wall, inadvertently activating the button that releases the African tribesman. As the tribesman strolls by, the man has a sudden realization. There are 3 numbers painted on his forehead, which might be the very combination he needs. Time is running out, so he quickly repeats the swinging and jumping routine 3 times, once for each number he needs. On his third swing, he hangs onto the rope and reaches the door. It's a bit stubborn, and he has to exert all his strength to finally push it open. When he finally manages to push the door open, the wall behind him closes unexpectedly, trapping him with barely enough space to finish the task. Devastated, the man collapses onto the floor, tears streaming down his face as he reflects on the fun he had with all the bizarre objects he'd collected from the buttons. Despite being locked in that previous room, at least he had space to move and entertainment. Now he realizes just how much he took for granted. Suddenly, a breeze brushes against his face from the left wall. Curious, he reaches out and discovers a crack that suggests it's a false wall. Wasting no time, he pushes the panel aside and bolts through it, finding himself in a mysterious hallway suspended in complete darkness. It feels like he runs for an eternity, and when he finally reaches a new room, he notices his hair has grown longer and the vibrant colors of his pajamas have dulled. This new room is empty, and just as he steps inside, the door slams shut behind him. Instead of the baby angels from before, adult angels fill this space, vanishing into the walls but leaving their members sticking out as buttons. This phase is known as practice. Meanwhile, in Mexico, little Antonio's family is worried about his father, a wrestler known as Escargot Man, who has been unusually quiet. His wife suspects it's because he's about to face a much younger opponent, but the grandfather insists that experience counts for more than youth. Sister Karen, Antonio's sister, picks up Escargot Man in her truck, driving him to the wrestling ring for an early preparation that includes changing clothes and offering prayers to the Virgin. At school, Antonio faces bullying from classmates who ridicule him for betting on Escargot Man, calling his father a weak loser. As the match approaches, Sister Karen returns in her van to pick up Antonio and their grandfather, taking them to watch Escargot Man in action. She doesn't stay, leaving Antonio and his grandfather to squeeze into some of the last available seats just as the show is about to begin. The first team to enter the ring is the Northern Tough Ones, consisting of Super Demon and Tequila Joe. Then, Escargot Man and his partner, Silver Eagle, step in under the team name Kiss Me A Lot. Silver Eagle takes the lead for his team with an impressive start, but it isn't long before the Northern Tough Ones team up to overpower him, battling him 2 against 1. The crowd continues to beckon Escargot Man, urging him to join the fight, but he stands his ground until Silver Eagle pulls a clever trick that makes Super Demon and Tequila Joe accidentally collide with each other, giving him a chance to escape. However, Escargot Man soon finds himself overwhelmed as well. Just as his opponent raises a chair to strike him, the man in the mysterious room presses a member button, causing Escargot Man to magically extend his neck and knock both opponents out with a powerful headbutt. In the room, however, nothing seems to happen, piquing the man's curiosity. He presses the button repeatedly, leading Escargot Man to knock out Silver Eagle, the referee, Antonio, and even the ringing bell. Growing frustrated with the lack of results, he begins experimenting with different buttons. One button unleashes a fire-breathing performance by a metal band singer during a concert in Los Angeles, while another causes a Russian magician to botch his trick of making his assistant disappear. The third button results in a man in China barking at his own dogs. Just when he's about to give up hope, he notices a beam of light shining from above. Unlike the last room, this one has no ceiling, revealing angels flying gracefully in the distance. Inspired, he decides to take a different approach. Instead of pressing the member buttons randomly, he will climb the walls using them. To his delight, it works. Every time he grabs a button or steps on one, something incredible happens on Earth, ranging from flowers blooming to an elephant taking its last breath. As he ascends higher, the effects grow more complex, involving not just nature but human accomplishments as well, everything from a simple toaster to the monumental event of landing on the moon. By the time he reaches the top, his hair and beard have grown long, and he no longer needs to cling to the wall. Now, he can float just like the angels. Drawing upon all the skills he honed in the previous rooms, he embraces his newfound role as a deity, deliberately selecting humanity's greatest triumphs instead of pushing buttons at random. As he completes this phase, he finds himself surrounded by feathers instead of walls. He steps through a glowing portal that transports him to the final room. Here, the walls are adorned with representations of the continents, and at the center stands a colossal member button that the man is poised to press. This stage is known as the future. With this, the movie ends. If you liked this video, then do not forget to subscribe to the channel after liking the video.